Hi guys! In my entire software engineer career, I have faced only one system design interview. That is also for Intuit, and it majorly focused on the previous work that I had done. So I thought let's start with the god of system design interviewing me, Gaurav Sen. He is a YouTuber majorly known for system design and also DS Algo, and is now the CEO of Interview Ready, which is again known for system design. So I hope I do well. Let's just get into it. Let's get started.
Thanks, Kirti. Thanks for inviting me. What's going to happen now is that I'll find the hardest system design question I can think of. The question that we have today is that we have to design a lift system, an elevator system. Okay. And as we can tell that there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be using this elevator. So some person might be calling, let's say we have multiple elevators, and somebody's calling an elevator down to a floor, let's say the ground floor, somebody's calling it up to the terrace. And we need to efficiently assign elevators to people. How would you go about designing the algorithm or the code for an elevator?
Okay. So if an elevator is going up, it will be going up only. Like it won't stop for the people if who want to go down, right? First, it will finish its like one flow of going up, and after it drops the last person, it will come down, right?
Yes.
Okay. And can there be like a ground floor also, like underground floors also, like negative, or it will be till zero?
So you could have basements. You could have, let's say, 7 or 8 basements also, depending on the building. However, it depends on how you model the elevator. If you want to put negative numbers, that's okay. Otherwise, if you want to keep it zero indexed also, we are not going to go, let's say, any further than the basement. Once the foundations are laid, the elevator floors will not be changed, in the basement side. Maybe it can be added later on the upper side.
Okay, got it. So we have like a minimum till which it can go, but maximum can keep increasing later as well.
Yes.
Okay, got it. And okay, so just to give you, like, just to understand the system properly, so there can be multiple elevators. So there will be an external request, like someone wants to either go up or go down, something like that. And then when the person enters, he or she will press which floor they want to go to, right?
Yes.
Now it is possible that they pressed going up, but they are pressing going down wala thing. So like suppose they are around second floor. I know that is too much detailing, but I'm just saying that that will be like.
That's a good question. So for example, you might have one person in the same floor who wants to go down and one person in the same floor who wants to go up. Right. In which case, you probably need to assign 2 elevators to the system. However, we don't know how many elevators this building has. So it might have just 1 elevator, or it could have 2 also. In which case, you have to decide on whether it goes up for now, or should it go down. I mean, we are not looking for the most efficient algorithm in the world. This is a hard problem. But anything which is, let's say, firstly, which is correct, and then which is, let's say, efficient.
Okay, got it. So whatever the direction of elevator is presently, it will just go in that direction. If the person pressed the floor number in the opposite direction, it will be like taken care of later. After like going up, all of them are solved.
Yeah, let's say that you have a person on the 5th floor who presses the elevator to go down, and the elevator is right now on the ground floor. Now, a person on the 6th floor also calls the elevator to go down. We have to then decide, do we go to the 6th floor first or the 5th floor first? And after the elevator has come to the 5th floor, you will stop going up. Basically, you will go down now because nobody has called the elevator. If the 6th floor person doesn't call the elevator, you just go down. If somebody calls the elevator, then you need to make a decision.
Okay. Usually what happens is the elevator goes till 6th, and while coming down, it will stop at the 5th floor and then let the 5th person enter, right? So you want a similar behavior to happen?
Yes, that seems more efficient because in this case, what's happening is people are not being added to the elevator for a long period of time. People want to be in the elevator for a long period of time. We want to minimize the time that they are in the elevator.
Right. So basically, if lift is going up, then the person who is at the highest floor will first get in, and then the others, like who want to go down, right? And if the lift is going down, then the person who was at the lowest floor will get in first to go up, and then the others will get in, right?
Yes. Yes. Now, an interesting thing here is that the lift can go up to a particular point. Let's say you go up to a particular floor, and then it has been called to go down by the fifth floor person. But the sixth floor person wants to go up. Now, we need to make sure that it does not get confused as to whether you want to go up midway or whether you want to go down.
So whichever direction it was going, it will first finish that. It will serve all in that direction and then start serving the other direction, right?
Right. Right. So interestingly, this problem is very similar to, it's not very similar, but it is a little similar to scheduling. You don't want some person to starve, okay, because you see that, let's say 5 people want to go up and only 1 person wants to go down. If you try to make it too efficient, 1 person is going to starve or wait for the elevator forever, in which case,
Right.
yeah.
Right, got it. And since there are multiple elevators, so if like one is going in one direction and there is a request coming for going in up direction, obviously the second elevator will be like given. If there is an elevator present which can serve the request, it will go, right? Like,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
serve the person.
Something has to serve them. So midway, if you decide that, hey, elevator 1, you were going to go in the down direction, but maybe I send you up. That is also possible. So, but yeah, I mean, that depends a little on the algorithm, but you are right. If 2 people have called it in different directions, we want it to be served immediately.
Okay. Another question. But what if 2 people want to go in the same direction, but there is another elevator idle? So is it possible that the other elevator can also come, or because it happens, like, right? Like there are 2 elevators that are coming up to go because the elevator might reach its capacity or something like that. Like there can be, suppose, 10 people in the elevator. So suppose all the 10 people are there. So would we want the second elevator to also come, or no? Since one elevator is already coming, we won't let the second one come.
Okay, that's a good question. In terms of capacity, how will you, let's say that you don't have a way of measuring capacity because we don't know how weight and space is defined. We can tell you if an elevator is overweight, but if an elevator is overweight, then it's going to stop moving. So let us assume that we don't have any way of saying what the capacity is at the moment.
So unlimited number of people can get in. Let's just say.
Still it is overweight. Okay, now an interesting question is, let us say capacity of 8 people is allowed in the elevator, and you see 9 people have called it to go upwards. So do we leave the 9th person and move forward? I don't think so. I think it would be better to go to the 9th floor, clearly specify to them that the elevator is overweight, and when they get down, then it will move forward.
The problem here is that we can't always measure exactly how many people have gotten in, because 1 person might press but 3 people might get in. That is one case. Similarly, 1 person might click but not get in at all. Another person might get in and the floor is already pressed, so he or she might not press, right? So there are a lot of cases that are possible. So,
exactly. So that's a good point.
So we can't really tell exactly how many number of people are there.
Exactly. Yes, we can't. And this problem we don't want to, let's say, take on ourselves. We instead want to give the person who's going to be using the elevator, we want to allow them to make that decision.
Okay. That means what? Sorry.
So that means that if 9 people have clicked the elevator button to go up and your capacity is 8, it might be that 1 person doesn't get onto the elevator, or there's 2 of them are kids, so maybe the weight capacity is not met. We don't care about all this. We stop on every floor which has been called, and then finally if we are overweight, then there is an alarm.
Okay.
If there is no overweight, then fine, we are just moving forward.
Got it. Okay. So only if we are overweight and we have to go in the same direction, does the second elevator come, or it comes anyway?
So which algorithm would you prefer? Would you prefer that the elevator comes?
So what I have seen till now is that, like from my real experiences, that the second elevator also comes because people might want to get in the less crowded elevator.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like a user-friendly case would be that the second elevator also comes.
Okay, we can do it that way also. Yes.
Okay, so is it okay? Like we can go ahead with this?
Yeah, I think that's totally fine. If you have multiple people who are calling an elevator, sending multiple elevators then makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
If let's say three people have called an elevator or four people have called an elevator, two people asking up, two people asking down.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to make sure we need to take care of that also. We don't have four elevators, so we can't send one to each. In which case, we have to probably piggyback one on top of the other.
Right, got it. Okay. And we don't have like a lift man person who is taking care of anything, right?
We are the lift man, yes.
Sorry?
We are the lift.
We are the lift man. Okay. We only have to manage. Okay. Great. And also, I'm guessing you might want like a kill switch sort of thing so that we can stop the elevator for maybe some sort of maybe renovation or something like that.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is the number of floors is variable, but it's not going to happen every day. The number of floors changes. So if you have any kind of pre-processing you want to do, I think it's totally valid. The second thing is the number of elevators also don't change every day. However, it could be that maybe one elevator is added once in a blue moon, or one elevator is subtracted, or maybe even two, depending on maintenance or other issues. But yeah, this is a rare event, so you can take it that way. If you want to do any pre-processing, that's fine. But ideally, you want to make this elevator a generic elevator system.
Okay. And also, can there be like types of elevators, because there are a few buildings who have elevators just to carry stuff like furniture and all, and different elevator for people. Do you want something like that, or just one kind of elevator?
So no, we are not looking for that. In case someone says that one is a service elevator, we can tell them, okay, please run our code on the service elevators separately, and please run our code on the person elevator separately. So it's like two elevator systems then. But we are treating them differently.
Okay, so system itself will be different, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of our elevator system. I mean, two subsystems basically.
Okay. So there will be another system which will have these subsystems, so I don't have to really care of it right now.
Yeah, you don't need to, yeah.
Got it. Should I start talking about the classes that will be there and the connections, or you want me to go into more details?
Yeah, I think you can start with the classes. Maybe the most important thing that you can start with is, it depends on you. How do you want to move forward? From the left or the right?
Okay, cool. I have not written the requirements, but we can always keep discussing as they come.
Sure.
I should have probably written them, but I know one feedback already. Okay, cool. So there can be states of the elevator, right? So it can be idle, it can be moving up, moving down, or okay, let's keep that for a direction. Like direction can be up, down, and there can be state of an elevator which will be idle, moving, not working, and I guess that are the states that I'm thinking of right now. If something comes up, we can always add it. Okay, so these will be enums. So one enum that I'm thinking of is direction, right? And is it visible?
Yeah.
So one will be up, one will be down. So these are the two directions that are possible. Then another thing is a state of elevator. So that can be idle, moving, not working. I'm not sure if we will need this not working state, because when the elevator is not working, we might want to like remove it from the group of elevators that we have. I'm not sure if we are going to use this, but I'm just going to like have it right now and we can see if we need it or not.
Right. That's a good approach in general. Like if you need something but you are not sure, do define it. Yeah. So I think not working is a good practice to have.
Okay. Great. So there are a group of elevators, right? Now, which data structure should I use to store these elevators. Now, I guess a simple vector is also enough because I don't need them sorted in any way. Plus, like removal and addition is going to be very rare. So I might want to like extract a particular elevator only rarely. So I guess vector is good enough. Like, what do you think?
A vector for the elevators?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, it should be fine. Anything is fine as long as you don't say an array. No, but yeah. So
Vector dynamic array.
yeah, no, it doesn't. So to be honest, even an array is actually maybe okay in this situation because I have mentioned that the number is almost fixed, but a vector is good enough because we are not expecting, let's say, hundreds of elevators when
Correct.
hash map or something like that.
Right. It will be just easier to deal with vector than arrays. So
Yeah, yeah. As long as you don't name the elevator 1, 2, and 3, I think we are good. Yeah.
great. So there will be an elevator class. Can I just call it lift? It will be easy and it will take less space.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So there will be a lift class. Okay, and so I'm thinking of what all properties it can have. One will be the state, right? And so, okay. So one is state. Another can be the direction. So direction will be there only if it is moving, but we can still have it as part of lift itself, I think.
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
So is direction okay? Is direction going to be used by any other class except lift? Can it be a property of any other class in this system apart from lift? No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so then probably keeping it inside that class might be helpful because it's the only thing that is going to have methods that are going to use that. So yeah, seems like a good idea.
Okay. So I'll have direction inside this. These will be obviously private properties, so I'll have getter setters for all of them, right? But I'm not mentioning them here, not to go into detail. Okay, great. So there will be two types of requests, I guess. One will be one which will take just the whether going up, going down direction, basically, right?
Yeah.
So they suppose there is a class, say, which is system, which is basically us, which is going to serve the request, which is going to take the request.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good idea. Direction can be up, down. It could also possibly be nothing. Like basically, if the system is idle, then okay,
Right.
checking the state of the system.
Right, that's what I said. Direction will be there only if the state is moving, but probably like a good design would be that if I mention that like not moving can be a direction also, so that we can refer to it like maybe something like none or not moving, something like that.
Yeah, that'll be nice. That'll be nice. Yeah.
So system which will serve the request. Now, okay. Now we have to see how many pending requests are there, and we will serve according to that, right? So that's getting into the algorithmic part of it. Like how are we going to really serve the request? So I guess there can be two vectors. One will be pending request to go up, and the other one will be pending request to go down. And as the requests will come, we can keep adding them to this vector.
Okay.
Although it might be a good idea to like keep the requests sorted, maybe store them in a set which is internally BST, so it will be sorted. Let me tell you where I am coming from. So if I have like a set of requests which are going up, like pending up requests, right? So I have to serve all of them, right? But I have to serve them in an order. I have to stop at first, second, third, sort of. So I could keep, I'm just thinking out loud. So there are multiple ways to do this. So one is like we keep an array because see, Okay, so let me just tell you the multiple ways that are coming to my mind. I'm thinking of it in multiple ways. Since the number of floors will be sort of fixed, it will change only very rarely. We could always have like a hash map sort of thing. So, do we have to reach this floor? As soon as a request comes that I have to go to this floor, I can just mark it as true. The rest will be false. So, that's just easier way to access, do I have to stop at this floor or not?
No, that's a good idea. I think that's a very good idea.
Right.
One of the things, so as you get the requests, if you want to sort them, you can. It might help you. However, the priority of a request is sort of difficult to say. Like, I want to go down and I'm on the 6th floor versus I want to go up and I'm on the 6th floor. But it will
Yes.
be.
So there will be two separate data structures, whichever we decide to use. It can be a hash map or a set or a priority queue if we want to take it according to the priority. So, but there will be two separate data structures, for one for the request of going up and the other one for the request of going down, so that it's separate.
That's okay. That seems like a good idea. Yes.
Yes. Okay, so coming to the data structure, you seem to agree the most with the hash map one. So should we go ahead with that?
Yes. Let's do that.
Okay, so we'll go ahead with two hash maps. One will, so they will be like, so the keys will be the floors, and the value will be whether we have to stop at this floor or not. By default, all of them will be false, and as soon as a request comes that I have to go to this floor, it will be changed to true.
Okay. 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 I think that is fine. The maximum number of floors, even if you have Burj Khalifa, will be 100. So doing a linear scan on that is not going to hurt as much. Yeah.
Seems fine, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now the question is, where should I store these hash maps, right? So I'm thinking these could be part of our system itself, because system is the one who is going to take care of the requests. So I guess it's okay for them to be part of system as well.
Let's say we have something which is the assigner, right? So there is the scheduler actually. So this seems like this scheduling becomes a sort of a scheduling problem that we have in processors also. So maybe you can call it the scheduler, which does all of this stuff, that who needs to go where, and what would be the most or the best way to actually send people to a particular place. A lift also has a state, so the lift can tell the scheduler its own state and expose methods, but you also have a main class, which is actually doing the assignments.
Okay, got it. So you don't want to like our system to do everything. You want to distribute the things that people have to do, like systems.
Have everything in one class. What could happen is that we can add a lot of complexity to the code.
Agreed. Yeah.
Maybe that's not a big problem, but as we keep moving forward, this class is going to become really complex.
Right. Agreed. And tomorrow, if we want to change the logic and how we want to serve the request of going up, going down, or anything, like it should be based on a particular. Maybe some feedback comes and we want to change a particular logic, we should be able to change one particular class and go ahead.
Right. So if let's say you need to do some documentation and you have to get a promotion. So you need to write down all the things that you have done. So at that time you're looking for work. This is a good place to start.
Okay, great. So our system will just take in the request and forward it to someone, another system which will take care of putting these requests to either up wala hash map or down wala hash map. So this another class can be called as what should I call it? The one that is taking care of going up, going down.
So one thing you can call it is a scheduler. Another thing that you can call it is if you have something which manages things. Very often I've seen this in the real world. People call it manager. So lift manager. Oh wow, yeah.
Scheduler sounds good.
Scheduler is fine. Lift manager is fine. Anything as long as it makes sense, right? Yeah.
Yeah, right. So there's a scheduler over here. So this thing will have two hash maps, right? If you want to serve left and right later, you can add it to the hash, like you can add hash map over here. Okay.
Now we are getting ambitious, yeah. But if you like, you can just make it a hash map of hash map, which is for every direction there is a hash map. That would actually allow people to easily, add new directions.
Yes.
Let's say I have a 3-level hash map or a 4-level hash map. In code, it's going to look very bad because what's going to happen is map.get direction dot something, which looks ugly in code.
Not really. So if I have like 4 directions, okay, so left and right will be there in this direction enum. So our like upper hash map, like sort of outer hash map will be direction will be the key, and the rest can be like value. The hash map can be the value, and we don't always have to necessarily like keep going to it again and again. If we are dealing with a hash map, we can always refer to that one, because anyway getting value from a hash map is just order of one. It is just about how it will look in the code.
Yes. No, so I totally understand your point. You're right. In terms of efficiency, there is no problem. In terms of code readability, also it does not look like a very big sin. But what I think 2-level hash map is fine. But if you see that this is getting ugly, because even if you access that hash map and say up hash map and down hash map, in the code it may look different. But I'm okay with it. I think yeah, let's go ahead with it for now.
You want me to think of an alternative or?
So interestingly, so this is a question which is not related to this question, but I would probably like to expand on this. If you have a 3-level hash map or a 4-level hash map, then we are not even going to be able to assign a pointer to, let's say, the multiple types of hash maps that we will be coming up with. In which case, what would you suggest? How do we make the code more readable?
Okay.
Yeah, it's a tough question. It's a tough question.
I'm thinking about it because using adjacency list itself gets very, very hard for some people, because it's like array of vectors, right? So that itself gets hard sometimes to read adjacency list, and you're talking about 3-4 level of hash maps. So obviously I'll have to think about it a bit.
Let's say people of this country, let's say Facebook is the system. So people of this country who are in this age group with this gender and who are interested in this tag. So it becomes a 4-level hash map. It becomes really hard to handle.
It becomes a DB itself.
Yes, exactly. So when you have a DB, like when you pull out objects from a DB, you don't map it into a hash map. You instead map it into
ID.
Yeah, you actually map it into an object.
Right.
So maybe in this case, we can actually make a composite object out of these 2-level hash maps.
Right. Do you want me to get into that?
No. I was just.
Yeah, it's a good discussion to have. Yes.
So this is very important as an interviewer. I was just trying to make sure that the audience understands that I know a lot. So yes, thank you.
We all know that you know a lot. Okay. Okay. So scheduler will have so there will be 2 hash maps for now, right? So let's call it pending up request and pending down request.
Okay.
And okay, so these are just hash maps, okay, and so the functions that it will have will be like add to so okay, there can be one function which will be like add request or request received, right? So it will pass a flag sort of thing that which hash map do I have to get into. So right now I am assuming that there are only 2 hash maps, okay? Otherwise there are always more ways to do it. They can be in enum and we can pass it that, okay, add this request to this particular hash map. So right now I'm just going to try to keep it as 2, okay, for simplicity purposes. Otherwise, I would have kept it an enum. Right now, I can just keep a Boolean flag whether I want to go up or go down. And I will, so in that request, so I'm just writing the request over here. So request will have this, that I have to go up or down, sort of, so there will be a flag, okay?
Okay.
So that will be the direction. Now the question is that either I can have 2 different requests or 1 request. So when we say from a user perspective, there are 2 requests. One is we press, and the second is when we get in, we press the floor, right? So there are 2 requests that can actually happen. So one way to deal with this is we don't do anything when the first thing happens. We just no, we have to either go down or go up, right? So there will be 2 different things. I'm just thinking. So one is so that the elevator gets to that floor, and the second one is to stop at that floor. So.
Yeah. Okay. Are people ever going to be stopping at a particular floor?
No, I mean if I pressed up and then I get in. Okay, now I press the floor. Like, so I pressed up, but now I have pressed right that I have to go to 5th floor. So basically, so I think there can be, so I'm thinking that this pending up request and pending down request, they should have the floor numbers that we have to go to. Like the person has to, like the destination floor or the source floor. So there are 2 things.
Yeah. So you're right. In some elevator systems, you can actually specify when you're calling the lift that I want to go to this floor. But in most elevator systems, at least in India, there is the expectation that you're first going to call the elevator, then you're going to get in and then specify which floor. So there's 2 types of requests, and you have that right. There are 2 different types of requests. One actually calls an elevator up to a particular floor, and the other one actually asks the elevator to go to another floor.
Right. So I'm thinking to keep it more flexible, they can be like 1 request. So source and destination floors. So now destination floor can be optional. Like if suppose if tomorrow you want to have an elevator, like you add that button outside that, okay, I want to go to this floor. So you can still serve the same request and go to that floor. Otherwise, the destination floor can be it can be blank. You don't have to pass it. We can have sort of a default parameter or something like that.
Okay.
It could be equal to the source floor itself if we have to get into the details. Like I could, so if the person is not giving me destination floor, I could just pass the destination floor as the source floor itself and it will be taken care of. That is just like code level handling that I'm saying.
Okay. No, this is interesting. So if a person is getting in, you want to make it a single request, which makes sense because all requests can then be passed without looking at the type of the request. However, one of them clearly tells you that go to this floor, and the other one says that come to this floor. The only difference being that when you're calling an elevator, you are also specifying a direction, up or down.
Yes.
While when you're saying that please go to floor number 5 once you're inside the elevator, there is no direction that you're specifying that after that I want to go up or down. Because basically you're done with the elevator.
Yes, right.
Right. So I think converting into a single request is fine. Let's see how that goes. Yeah.
Okay. Also, it has been 34 minutes, and we have to write down a class as well. So I'll quickly finish to this part and we can discuss like which class you would like me to implement, right? So what are we going to pass to this request is there going to be a flag whether I want to go up or go down, right? And there will be a source floor and there is going to be a destination floor. Okay, and so for the request that we said that invalid request that we said that I pressed up and I go in and I press a floor which is actually below the source floor, so that can mess up this request. So there can always be a check that if the flag is in up direction, then the destination should be greater than source floor. Or what I will do is I will just toggle the flag and convert it into a down wala request.
I think that makes sense. Yeah.
I will like remove it from hash map and put it to another hash map. That is just too much detailing, but just going into how I can deal with it when someone presses like the opposite direction.
Right.
Right? Okay. So whenever I get a request, what I'm going to do is first so these pending up, pending down requests. Okay, so I see a flag, I see that I have to go up. So I add in this hash map. I will just add the destination floor that I have to go to. Okay, so I have added the destination floor, and since I am going up, okay, now I am thinking that in this hash map corresponding to the up or down, I will have to say both source and both destination. Or it is better that I keep two hash maps for pending up requests and two hash maps for pending down requests. One will be to serve the sources, like where all we have to stop. Or do we need two different maps? Because one map is also enough. We just have to stop. It doesn't, like, to our system, it doesn't really matter whether it is a source one or a destination one. What matters is just I have to stop. So that is another design decision that we can take, whether we want to really specify it in our hash map that, okay, this is where I have to.
I think one of the things that is happening right now is we are seeing that there are multiple types of requests and they are being treated differently. So one of the things that we can do is when an object is being treated differently for the properties that it has, is to actually specify it as a separate object. So a request can be a call request, which is when a person is actually on the floor. And the other one could be a destination request. I don't know how to name it, but it could be like a drop request. So drop me to this floor.
Got it.
So different types of requests might help you easily, clear out the
problems. But like you seemed happy when I said we will have one request and keep it flexible. So that's why I went ahead with it.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Two requests make a lot more sense. Initially, I thought that a single request is looking good, but now that you have defined the problem better, I think two requests make more sense now.
Okay. Got it. So as soon as the request comes, I will see whether, I'll just mark. So we have a hash map, right, corresponding to the floors. So I'll just mark that, okay, this floor is, I have to mark it as true. So I have to stop there, okay. And so what our system will do is, so basically how our elevator will, maybe I can keep it in a loop, like while true, because we never want our lift to ever stop. So they can be like, it always has to go on. So it will keep checking if there are any pending, so there will be a flag which will say that there are any pending requests, or it can check this that. So what this pending request would do is it will check is any one of these as true, like like even if there is one floor that is true. So that is one problem of keeping hash map. If we would have just kept it as vector, we could have just taken like size. What is the size of like the requests that have come? Now since we have kept it as hash map, the downside of that is that I will have to keep checking whether there is a pending request, because I'll have to check that I have to mark like is any of the flows marked true or not. There are other ways also to take care of this. One way is that as soon as the request comes, I check if the request flag was false. I can just set it to true, and when the request is served, I can mark it as false, sort of thing. So that's
okay. No, I think one of the things about this, you're right, in terms of how do we actually implement it at the low level, this becomes a challenge. But there are certain frameworks that we can use which can help us like solve this problem. For example, whenever a certain event happens, we can push it to an event bus, and then it will notify us that, hey, run your algorithm now.
Right.
Request is.
So I'll just quickly try to make like a proper request out of this, okay? So there are multiple ways to handle like whether there is a pending request or not. Let's just like sort of black box this right now. Maybe there's like another system that can take care of whether there is a pending request or not, okay? So there will be another system that will take care of are there any requests pending, right? So this will serve pending requests. Okay, so what will happen is our system will get requests. Okay, that there's a request that has come. Okay, so we'll check are there any pending requests already. Okay, and if there are any pending requests, so if this person says true, what we are going to do is we are going to tell the scheduler just add to the request. Or if this person says that false, that there are no pending requests, then we tell this person that start, like schedule a new flow, like either go up or go down. Okay, so that's how it's going to happen. And when the schedule, when like suppose, so scheduler will see, so it is serving all the up requests or all the down requests. Okay, so now multiple ways to deal with it is that as soon as it is done dealing with all one flow of requests, it can tell the pending request class that I am done with all the requests that I had. So it can mark the flag that okay, this one is done. So we'll just mark this flag as true or false.
I think that's good.
Right. So the scheduler can tell the pending request that okay, I am done scheduling this. So we can go ahead. And also like the starting that we said, so system will have like a vector of lifts, right?
A vector of sorry. What?
A vector of lifts, like elevators.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Yes. So it will have vector of lifts, right? So this pending request, I think, should be per lift, per elevator, that this particular elevator has a pending request or not.
Yeah, no, I would rather prefer that if you have a pending request queue and you start pulling out requests one by one in a FIFO order, let's say, and then when you get a request, the scheduler decides that okay, with this request, which is for another thing is like, is it for a particular lift also? So a request is just saying, please take me here.
And in the starting, we decided that we are going to like send multiple lifts in the same direction, right?
All of them together as a thundering herd. But one of the interesting things that you have brought up with the multiple types of requests is one request is for a specific lift. So when you're inside the lift and you say, please go to this floor, it is actually for just a specific lift. We can't tell the other guy to.
Right. So the two sort of requests that you said, one will be just to tell the direction and the other one will be to tell the destination. So the destination one will have that, okay, this is my lift ID sort of thing, right?
I think that's good, yeah.
So each lift will also have an ID, which can be, right? So that will be the identifier. Okay, so just to reiterate on how things are happening, we get a request, we check if there is any pending request, then we tell the scheduler. Scheduler tells the lifts that okay, change your state like this or stop at these places, and scheduler communicates with lifts. So basically, it will first check that these lifts have. Okay, so another problem that happens is that scheduler need the access of this list of elevators, right? But we have saved our this list, this vector sort of in our system. So which is not a very good way to do it, because our scheduler will also need the lifts now to tell the lift that okay, do this or do that.
Yeah. No, that's true. Why? What is the what are the responsibilities of this system class? Does it need to exist?
As I was speaking, I was thinking that instead of scheduler telling the lift, our system itself should tell the lift. That scheduler will just say that okay, these are the pending requests and mark this, and our system is what tells the lift that do this or not do this.
So you want to take the communication with, you want to decouple the scheduler from communication with the lift. Now, that's usually that is a good idea. In this particular case, because the scheduler is always talking to the lift, I'm not very sure if the scheduler was talking to, let's say, multiple people, one was lifts, one was people and everyone, then it would be nice. But in this case, because it is only talking to the lift, maybe we can do a direct communication and we can get rid of an entire class, which is the system class, which might help reduce the code complexity.
Right. So instead of system class, we could have like sort of a communicator between.
Yeah, that is also possible. Yeah. But what this communicator is doing is an interesting thing. It just seems to be. It seems like a bloated class. It doesn't need to exist at the moment, at least. In case we see that there is a lot of communication complexity, we can always separate that out later on. So this becomes a 3-class question then. That's a bit of an issue, yeah, but okay.
What should I do now? Should I change it or should I?
I think removing it will be nice. We can send the pending request to the scheduler. The scheduler talks to the lift, and the lifts are all like fine. The scheduler has a bunch of lifts that it can talk to.
Okay, got it. So you want me to remove the system?
Yes, let's get rid of that. And the vector of lifts can be in the scheduler only, or a map of lifts actually will be better, because the ID to lift object mapping can.
I would rather have it like it's up to you, but it would be good if we can have like vector of list maybe in a small other component, so that if something else changes, like a sort of a lift manager sort of thing, so that tomorrow if something happens to the lift, like suppose there are more types of lift or one is not working, the lift manager takes care of it and not.
Okay. But if something happens to the lift, the object of the lift changes, right?
Yes, so all the objects are managed by the lift manager, so it will have the vector. So if one lift has to be removed, say, so lift manager does it. The scheduler will still go on with its thing.
Okay, that's interesting, and actually that does help decouple some things. However, what I'm seeing here is that the scheduler needs to know how many lifts are there also before it schedules people. So it might need very close access to the.
It should not be like completely decoupled. So it because it will need to regularly communicate with it, but it would be like good to. So obviously there's a trade-off. Like since the changes in the vector of the elevators will be very rare, it would be okay to keep it in the scheduler itself, which is what you were saying. So we won't it would be very less costly, but if we like try to decouple it and keep it in separate elevator manager, it will become a bit costly.
Okay. So which one would you choose? Would you choose would you choose a separate class which communicates with the lifts and also manages those lifts, but there is a scheduler where the algorithm exists? Or would you want to couple it for now, because you're seeing a lot of the data like is not being spread across the system. It's being sent from one place to another in a relevant way.
Like my personal choice would be to keep it decoupled, but this is highly subjective and it can vary from person to person because there are trade-offs. But personally, I would keep it decoupled.
Fine. Okay. So got it. Okay. So we shouldn't have rubbed off that class then. Okay, but okay. Honestly speaking, I think it was there are 3 parts to most LLD questions. One is the requirement analysis. The other one is finding out how we are going to implement it through block diagrams, or sometimes just by just speaking about what kind of code are we going to go ahead with. And the final thing is actually coding. So in a lot of LLD interviews, there is absolutely, let's say, no code also. There's just the block diagrams, which is like sort of a high level design, you can say, but that's what we did today. We basically took the requirements and we decided on how this is going to work. I think the requirement analysis was excellent. I think there were a lot of things that you picked up, which as an interviewer I had not seen earlier. Like, okay, you mentioned that if multiple people enter, then should we add that in our algorithm or not? Now, I have never thought of a lift going overweight. Okay, this is not something people do. They go like, okay, here's the algorithm, here's the object. So I think requirement analysis was excellent. In terms of the block diagram, I think there were a few places where we could have moved, let's say, more smoothly had we created objects faster. So there was a time when the lift object was very obvious. That was perfect. There was another object which needed to do the responsibility of the algorithm. That was also set up quickly. After that, what happened is, I think we everything started getting a little complex because we started treating them like, let's say, mutable. When you bring in mutability to any object, right, sometimes it makes it complex. But if you make them separate objects, it becomes a little easier to handle. So that is one place where I found that, okay, there is scope for improvement. However, surprisingly, you were able to, in the end, bring it all together. So the system works, right? So, I mean, it's a simple system, but the interactions are fine now. What I really liked is that you have pending requests also. Most people don't take this. Most people just go like, okay, fine, there's a scheduler, and you're going to call a function in that, okay, and that when that function is called, that time it is going to schedule things. I agree, that is going to happen, but why don't you also define the request? Why don't you also? So that thing was nice, and overall, I think, yeah, HR will get back to you. Yeah, super, well done. Yeah,
Thank you so much again, Gaurav Sen, for coming and doing this. It means a lot, and like it was a great experience for me, my first system design interview. Thank you so much for coming. If you like this video and you want to learn system design more, if you want to become an expert, you can always go ahead to Interview Ready because it is known for system design. I hope you like the course. It's made by our own Gaurav Sen, so do check it out.